discussion as the items noted are still problematic. These include the library, code enforcement, and restructuring the city organization. The policy to prioritize CDBG funding for general fund obligations with the goal of offsetting expenses. The city has provided social service groups a portion of its CDBG allocation. While not mandated or required by law, the city is able to provide CDBG allocations to service groups in the community with the intent of accomplishing various noteworthy goals. The council could decide to utilize the funding allocated for social service groups and instead be utilized for general fund obligations, including those in engineering and community development departments. This would have impacts to the community, but the council could choose to adopt a policy and then give the organizations that would be impacted significant time to explore alternative funding sources. City staff would need to develop a policy, bring forward to council, and also explore the areas in which the city could utilize the CDBG allocations for other eligible projects with the goal of offsetting general fund expenditures. Update and complete fee service study to more accurately assess and recover costs for providing services. Pursuant to the provisions of the California Constitution, the city is authorized to adopt and implement fees, rates, and charges for services provided that such fees, rates, and charges do not exceed the estimated reasonable cost of providing those services. Reviewing our fee structure is necessary to determine the true cost of providing services to the community. And just a brief note on development impact fees. When new or proposed developments are proposed in a community, the idea behind the impact fees is to pay for all or a portion of the cost of providing public services to the new development. So with that being said, I am asking for direction on the items that were before you. So I'd be happy to field any questions or comments and would open it up to discussion as the council so desires.
Sarah, was anybody that wants to speak on this item? Okay. Council questions? Pardon? She's yelling in the audience.
Okay, I'm going to talk real quick. First of all, this presentation was awesome. However, giving it at 11:15 is very cruel to us who have to take all this in. But here's a couple points. One, you give me a red pen and you give me an itemized budget, I will balance your budget. The mindset that the city council has for 8 years that you can continually work at a deficit is wrong. You got to get that out of your heads. And finally, the issues about Measure U, I thought they were presented brilliantly here, but I remember last year these same comments were brought and people were basically crucified for suggesting that Measure U money be used for anything other than the definition of Measure U. So I'm just a little bit concerned that we don't have another city manager removal because of this particular suggestion, which I think is great. But you can't have another deficit. You got to stop it. You got to.
Council?
I'll start. I absolutely agree with several of the points to consider. Absolutely, we need to be taking a very close look at fees for services, not only to update them to the true cost, but examining every feasible cost that we might be able to recover that we might not be currently doing. And I'm not advocating that we're not doing that, but I think we just need to make sure that anything that is reasonable and legitimate to create a fee for cost recovery, we should be doing that. That in and of itself is probably going to generate a small amount, but every little bit helps. I certainly recall all the discussion last time about Measure U, and my colleagues probably recall my comments at the time that I was reluctant to delve into that initially because the so-called excess funds, I wasn't comfortable considering them excess at that time. I think we've got a better idea now what is trending, and I'm certainly open to looking at anything that meets the definition of public safety that we can legitimately use Measure U funds. I think we should be doing that. And I think when we had a conversation recently, and I gave one small example, is Measure U allowed us to modify the emergency services coordinator from part-time to full-time, but we're still charging 50% to general fund. That's public safety, in my opinion. It should be 100% Measure U, just as an example. So those are quick comments off the top of my head.
Any other council comments?
Yeah, on your additional budget balancing measures, yes, all of them. But did we not do something about a year ago when we updated cost recovery on, we did the fee study and implemented a program that we would then do that on an annual basis?
I don't recall that. I just came up on my year anniversary. Maybe it was before that.
Before you got
Yeah.
it. But it seems to me we
Lauren,
did
do you
that.
recall that?
We
Deanna?
improved it going
Chris?
forward, did we not?
Talking about updating the fees, but no.
Didn't-
That's 2015, yeah.
Not since 2015.
Yeah.
You know, I could
No.
have swore when
We
no, I'm with you, Linda.
Yeah.
And when we went through the fee study not too long ago.
Absolutely. Not the WR cut, no. It was last year.
Yeah, there's,
Is there? 2015?
Time doesn't fly that fast.
I know that we haven't updated in the last year. How's that?
Okay, then I will go dig in my records.
Okay.
Because it seems to me we had the same conversation that we have to do this on an annual basis, and we said, go ahead and do it, let's bring all this stuff forward and let's get it done. So, you've done a great job, you really have. And just bringing out options and the numbers speak for themselves. Pat, I'm going to give you my budget and a red pen, and you take care of it. But I think one of the things we really need to have this serious discussion, and we go back to the use of Measure U funding, and the ultimate bad news is we could bankrupt the city by not using Measure U funds. And if Measure U funds are for police and fire, let's use it for police and fire. But let's look at the options. I'd like to see how much of the short-term, midterm that we could actually bring in to reduce deficit. And I would like to see also with the chief's input what that overage of the 10 million would do to their plans and how that would be massaged. I mean, we need to really look at this.
I agree. So do the chiefs, can you tell me?
Not tonight. Let them work it up. Well, but if you can work it up and let us see what it does. I mean, we don't have to look at, okay, if a workup like that, city attorney, gets done, it can be sent to each one of the council members individually, correct? Without us violating any type of Brown Act?
Yes, you just can't talk about
We just can't talk about it. Well, Bonnie and I can talk about it.
it.
We're on the budget committee. So could we do that?
Well, we can host another budget ad hoc committee meeting and talk about that
And then
specifically
bring
related.
everybody else in.
Sure.
Okay. I would really like to do that because I'd like to see some of these scenarios in hard numbers and where it takes us and what the impact is of not doing some of these things. But I also, in your little list, not little list, of things that were allocated for and not allocated for in the budget. Couple questions on that. The grant management, I think that is something we absolutely have to look at including, and to look at things such as something we've been, and I'll use the word bitching about for the last 12 years, is to get solar on some of our buildings. Our library is the biggest hog of electricity that we've got. And every year it gets pushed down the road and pushed down the road. And other cities